Hello yet again. Cathar, where are you? Cathar Love 162, or Cathar, where are you at? This has come about because some people have referring themselves as Cathars. Someone talking to me, and others that I'm on YouTube, and which is great. I've certainly and no disagreement with that. But a number of things have happened. We're well aware, because of the number of books, people who historically delving into the Cathar history. So we know very, very much about the history. And in fact, I saw this YouTube last week, and it was the Cathar Spirit. Neil Hague, Neilhague, it was the young Englishman, and it was great. And he'd walked from some of the Cathar castles from one to the other in the south of France, and he talks about his journeys. There's some photographs there, and he talks generally about Cathars. And but he obviously hadn't travelled either himself or read books about the mystical side of the Cathars. For instance, he said he's not too sure about reincarnation, how far they were into it, and he wasn't too sure about it himself. Well, they were certainly very much into reincarnation, and the return of lifetime after lifetime as we evolve. But keeping it simple, the Cathars had been referred to by various historians as the Buddhists of the West, because, like Buddhism, they meditated, and meditated deeply. This is the perfecti, the parfait, the good men, the good women. They didn't eat meat. They fasted, long fasts, reincarnation, and they didn't believe in killing animals, which is very Buddhist. Although a major difference between them and Buddhism was the fact that they had women as totally and completely equal to male. There was no difference as far as any sexuality of any type. There was no difference whatsoever, apart from biological. So total equality of the sexes, well, that certainly doesn't happen in Buddhism. In fact, there was quite a while, 9 years I think, before women became part of the Buddhist movement. They've been likened to the Chinese Taoists because, again, the Chinese Taoists were deep into meditation, but the Chinese Taoists, they loved wandering, and the Cathar certainly wandered from town to town, and they had this deep love, even reverence for nature, for the environment. Probably you could say they were the first really serious environmentalists. They really cared about nature, and of course they took their herbs and medicines from nature, and they regarded as the forests as their cathedrals. They said their church is not made of stone. Our church is made of mind, blood and bone. You and I, the person, that's the church, not stones. Each individual is the church. And of course the Taoists elevated the feminine principle. So here they are being accused of being very Taoist, but I think these are compliments. I don't think they're in any way denigrating the Cathars. So, and these are very mystical, deep mystical movements. So the Cathars, if anything, one could say, is a deep mystical movement. They were Christians, but they followed Christ. I mean, the literal Christ, the Christ consciousness, if you like, the humanity, the love of Christ. But they regarded Christ as a Jew. He was as a person, the same as you or I. He was born from a woman, the normal process. His mother was a Jewish woman, not this mother of God, and Jesus the Son of Man, and all this type of stuff that was all brought on by Christianity, by the later Christians. They regarded Christ as a superb, a perfect human being, in that he became more spirit than physical. He had the ability to heal, and he loved, and he cared for everybody and loved everybody. But at the same time, he was a rebel. He really spoke out against the corruption of the priesthood and what was going on, and changing the money in the temple and all and so forth. So he was a rebel. He was crucified for his treason. And of course, to the Cathars, he was a man that was crucified, but by the time of his crucifixion, he was as more spirit. He had become more mystical and more spiritual than physical. So, though his physical body was crucified, his spirit didn't die. He didn't die. His spirit didn't die. The mystical side of him didn't die. And there are medieval Cathars, and I certainly don't disagree. And they say yes, that he was his spirit, the mystical side, the phantom side. That is what appeared to the people after the crucifixion. But so he was a man. He was born a Jew, died a Jew, and that presumed all Jews at that time were married by the age of 30, and he wouldn't have been no difference with him, possibly or probably Mary Magdalene. So all this pomp and ceremony and ritual and sacraments and all this type of stuff, that all evolved at a much later date. So it's the Cathars, and they regard themselves as the followers of Christ, of the actual Christ, of the original Christ, primitive Christ, call it what you like. And they say that they had not changed since the time of Christ. It's the church that had changed since the time of Christ. And I don't think Jesus would have recognised them with their pomp and ceremony and their gowns and their cathedrals and their rings and the best of everything. And then apart from that, the fact that they persecuted their enemies as well. So this is Catharism. And then the Cathars, the people who perfected, they sought out the spiritual and mystical side, and this is what Christ, for instance, he went to the desert for 40 days and fasted and what have you. He would have, he mightn't have eaten, but he would have taken water, because you need water when you fast. But the Cathars did 3 fasts a year, 30-day fast. Now, in that time, they would have eaten bread and water, and they didn't abstain from food completely, but it was a fast, and it was 30 days, and that's 90 days a year. That's 1/4 of the year they spent in actual fasting. 30 days. The best I can manage is 11 so far. So they were out to develop the spirit within them, the spiritual side. Now this doesn't belong to Cathars or Gnostics or people like that. There's others. There's Jewish mystics. There's mystics from all walks of life. There were Christian mystics. even or some of the Orthodox ones. There was a Bingen, the nun, and she didn't like the Cathars, though. She reckoned they belonged to the devil. So she wasn't very loving as regards. The music was great, but she wasn't a very loving person, certainly as far as the Cathars was concerned. Only a good Cathar is a burnt Cathar. And of course we have the Islam, mystics, and there's mysticism goes way back to the dervishes for thousands of years. The Sufis as a movement, probably I think 700 years old or something like that. It's a fairly modern, I suppose you could say that. But mysticism goes back a long way in Islam. And as I said, the dervishes. The Sufi poets, Hafiz, Omar Khayyam, Rumi, they're quoting Cathar mysticism. For instance, Rumi says, well, Henri de Bourges said, he asked Jim, my friend Julian, he said, this is 15 years ago, he said to him, what's the two greatest goods? And Jim said, love, tolerance, kindness, compassion. And Henri said, no. He said, the two greatest goods are gratitude for existence, that means all our lifetimes, and the other is the absolute acceptance of necessity. So I notice Rumi says the same thing. Now I'll write it in here because I don't want to muck up his quote if I can find it. Let the alchemy true human beings know, the moment you accept the troubles you've been given, the door will open. So this is Rumi putting the same thing. The moment that you accept that whatever's happened in your lifetime, good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, everything was necessary to get you to this very point in time. But in this case, you're listening to me. The moment and accepting means that you can think about that, no matter how nasty it was at the time, and you can think about that, and it doesn't upset your emotional person. They call themselves good men and good women, but they don't call that person, oh, he's a good person, he's an evil person or a bad person. They knew, and it's a fact that we both, all of us, have the capacity to live in goodness, or you're just going to be a good person. You consciously decide on that, and if something's wrong, then you're just not going to be involved with it. That's up to yourselves in what degree. But or if the circumstances, or that we all have the capacity for doing really nasty stuff, as we know, and what people do to each other, what one human being is capable of doing to the other. But Madame de Stael, she was the enemy of Napoleon, because she used to speak out and speak her mind. But she said, and which modern psychiatrists are more or less saying, that if you really understand the situation, Socrates said the same thing about someone who was accused of being a coward, and he said, but if you were in that person's shoes and the same thing was happened to you and the enemy were charging down on you, would you have stood or would you have run? You can't say that. You can't say that person's a coward. Madame de Stael says, if you truly understand what's going on, you'll forgive. Because if you were in the same shoes, then quite possibly you'll be doing the same or even worse. So understanding means forgiveness. Rumi put it another way. Beyond the ideas of right doing or wrong doing, there lies a field. When the soul lies down in that green grass to talk about ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. Where's that field? That field's within ourselves. You know, another thing he says about even Christ is, I presume, is said, I presume he did say it, that the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven is within. It's within each of us. The Catholics say, turn inwards to the light, go within. That's it. Rumi says, he puts it another way, but it's the same thing. He just says, we're up there amongst the branches and the leaves, and he said, but it's what we're looking for is down there amongst the roots. It's down, it's inside, it's within ourselves. And this is why meditation is critical. Stillness, silence, going within, understanding ourselves. Another time he says, I can imagine this as you get older, it even happens more and more. He said, that necklace of diamonds that you're looking for, it's around your neck. That's where it is. And it's things are there, but it's already, we already have it. It's within. So, getting back to this Cathar, if you think, oh, that's yeah, I can go along with that. I'm on that Cathar. I feel I'm on that Cathar path, or I'm evolving towards that, or whatever. Well, okay. Well, let's have a look where I'm at, or you're at, or anyone out is at. Because it's simply a situation. It's not a race. It's simply between me and me, or you and you, or whoever it happens to be. The Cathar Church, it's a church of one. The Cathar Church is me, and then that other person. But it's always the individual. There's no herd situation. Another thing that I missed out on was with the Cathars, and it wasn't. It's both spiritual, mystical, and very real. Is the fact that they had total equality. Now, this was in medieval times, when everybody owed allegiance to somebody else. Someone belonged to somebody else. If you're a priest, you had allegiance to your bishop to your cardinal, the cardinal to the pope. If you were a serf, you had it to the landowner, the landowner to the knight, and the knight to his lord, and the lord to his upper lord or king. So there was this feudal stratosphere, which we still carry around in some places, like in England you've got the upper class and the aristocracy and the lower class and the working class, etc., etc. So these are the spillovers from feudal times. But people swore oaths to them, and the Cathars said, we don't belong to anybody. So there's nobody to swear an oath to, an oath of allegiance. We don't belong to anybody. And if there was 20 people in a room, no matter who they were, lord, serf, woman, young person, female, worker, everybody was absolutely equal. There was no one. You don't look up to anybody. You don't have to look down on anybody. Jill was as good as their master. So, to put it into context today, for some reason you're in a room and you've got the Pope there, and there's the Dalai Lama, and there's the Prince Harry, and there's Princess Carol, and there's the King and Queen of Denmark, and Putin, and now there's Xi Jinping over there, and you're all stuck in a room. Hey, there's not one of them there any better than you. But there's no one there any worse than you. We have this total equality. We don't have to bow down or bow up. We don't have to look up or bow down. To Catharism, everybody is equal. This is critical. So this is both a physical but also a deep mystical aspect of Catharism. So where are we at? Where is anyone at as regards being a Cathar? Well, I'd certainly say, if you're thinking about being a Cathar, that you love without condition, unconditionally. Doesn't matter who it is, and it doesn't matter the circumstances of what happened. You could be a hangman, you have to hang the person, it's your job, but there's no, you don't hate the person, you're just doing your job. Although Cathar shouldn't be in the job of being a hangman. I wouldn't suggest that. Meditation. It doesn't specify what type of meditation. Use the meditation that suits you. But, or if you've got some other way apart from meditation that you can go inwards and go within, some other form of stillness that you can go within and discover who you are from, not from the branches and the trees, but from the roots within the soil, deep down within the roots, and it's just this discovery. Do you treat other people as equals? Do you look up to anybody? Do you look down on anybody? Hey, Catharism, even nationalisms to the Cathars are loving. We're proud of where we are, but it's just a nation and an accident of birth. Our personality. We go and have our DNA test, and this is all this way from Iceland, and you've got part from Africa, black from Africa, you've got part Germanic or Asian or whatever it is, but this is your body. It's not you. You are the product of your past lives, and that could be a whole different ball game whatsoever. This is who you are. This is who you are in reality, and we can tap into that through past lives and experiencing past lives through meditation or hypnosis or whatever. A part of the mystical and spiritual aspect of the Cathars, the medieval Cathars, was the fact that they fasted. Gives you more time, because you're certainly not preparing breakfast, lunch and dinner. My partner, Monica, she likes her fast now. She suggests, let's go on a fast. I say, it's fine for you. You do 3 days. I go on to do 10. In the last 12 months, I've done 3 10-day fasts and 1 11-day fast. That's no food at all. I'd have water. Sometimes then I have coffee every day. But no food at all. Occasionally if there's a fruit juice or something, yes, I'll have that. But basically just good quality water. I do, by the way, drink seawater as well. I've been doing that for 30 years. But I've been fasting for 30 years. But before I used to do 3 days, 4 days, 5 days fast. Maybe 3 or 4 or 5 a year. But I've always wanted to have that enough time that I could go longer. I'm not doing it to lose weight. I'm no heavyweight anyway. But I enjoy it. Now, believe me, I'm not suggesting, and I'm really not suggesting anybody else fast, because you could have underlying medical conditions. For instance, if you're hypoglycemic and you go without food, you can go into a coma. Now, I'm not suggesting anything, but I don't think that if you're listening to this, I don't consider yourself, I wouldn't consider anyone stupid, and we use common sense. But I have to say that it's just for the fact that who rules you, your belly or your brain. The thing about fasting is, you're saying at least for a day, 2 days, whatever it is, 3 days, my brain is in control of me. That might be enough. Not even fasting. What I put it to you, if you haven't done any, is not even to fast. You can if you want, that's up to you, to try it out. But you can do yourself a favour and you just go off all carbohydrates and sugars. You eat your veggies. If you're vegan, don't eat your meat. If you're a meat eater, eat your meat, whatever. But you don't eat any carbohydrates. That's any form of rice, wheat, barley, includes pasta, biscuits, bread, no potatoes, no sugary drinks, no sugar. Coffee, tea is fine. Any fluids are fine. A glass of wine is fine. Doesn't matter. But you just restrict yourself off entirely from carbohydrates. Now, I suggest this for a couple of reasons. I'm pretty fit. I've had a blood test and I did one after 10 days. In fact, I'll put it up. And I've only done 3 blood tests. And well, my doctor said there was this one, and then there was one a couple of years ago when I did a 9-day fast. Or it was on the 9th day of a 10th day fast. I just wanted to check, and this time I wanted to check after a 10-day fast. Why not? Being an ex-military man, medicine doesn't cost me anything. Thank you to the government. But they looked at the one before that, and I think it's my previous blood test was 2003 or 2005, something like that. But the good thing was, the doctor says, the last one, which was only a few weeks ago, was better than the one I did in 2003 or 2005. So not getting worse, getting improving, and that's everything. Prostrate, blood, lipids, whatever. So I certainly haven't done me any harm over the short term or the long term. But by avoiding all carbohydrates, if you haven't done that before, believe me, if you can do that for 3 days, if you find your sugar will go down, your blood pressure goes down, this goes down, that goes down, you're doing yourself a favour. But apart from that, you're doing from a spiritual and mystical side of things, it's, hey, I'm in charge. Hey, this up here, this brain, hey, I'm going to do this for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, whatever it is that you want to do it. But you make it and you do it. You know, it's you, your brain over your belly. Who rules? Unfortunately, for most people, it's the belly. Yeah, and that you can do that because there's virtually, if you do have a medical condition, just by going for carbohydrates for 3 days, I can't imagine that would hurt any medical condition. In fact, it should prove it. All I'm trying to say is, at the end of this, is Catharism is spiritual and mystical. But it's not just talk. You know, they were serious in pursuing the spiritual and the mystical, and they did what they needed to do to move more into that spiritual and mystical area. Meditation, fasting, not being more caring, being more kind, assisting others. So this mystical side, it's so important, and it's an essential part of Catharism. Just going back to do this video by the Gnostic Spirit by Neil Hagen, and he from listening to him talk, he doesn't know, or he hasn't gone too much into the mystical side of the Cathars. Yet at the same time, he said when he's at Montsegur, he did have these feelings, these deep feelings, and this goes down. This is mystic. But he told a story, and it was really great towards the end of his talk. And he's at this castle, Pulirin, and it's everyone has to leave by 5 o'clock and leave, but he and his girlfriend, they snuck in and stayed there, and they put up a tent. And that was fine until midnight or whatever time it was, and suddenly there's all hell broke loose. There's this neighing and snorting and stamping of feet, and this racket was going on. So he got inside the tent with his torch. There's nothing there. Got back in, and they just couldn't handle it. They just had to leave, and so they left. But then he found out later. He actually had a photograph and pointed to the area where they camped, because he came back the following day or some days later, and he pointed to the spot. And the thing was, that was the stables for the horses for the knights, and these were pretty solid horses. And he said, and of course there was these horses stamping and snorting and running around. And so this was it, and it all suddenly all made sense. Now, this or that was a mystic experience. It's not your ordinary, it's out of the ordinary. It's extraordinary, it's out of the ordinary. It's paranormal. That is mystic. And this was a major part of the medieval Cathar religion. So, if you're along the Cathar Path, how far have you travelled? It's an interesting path, it's a good path. And the thing about that, it's a path that's great for society, great for the world, and it doesn't harm anybody. In fact, it does the opposite. It's there to strengthen and elevate us. Bye for now. Talk again. Bye.